That's terrible. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CineQuest Video. Today, we are discussing, again, we're back with a discussion of one of our favorite, I can't say the favorite, but one of our favorite sitcoms of all time. Probably one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, Seinfeld. And joining me today, I have Bryce. He's back.
Yo.
Right, Joe still trying to decide which characters we actually relate to more. And we have a new guest to this particular sub podcast that we're doing, Ron. Ron's back on the podcast to discuss Seinfeld as well.
Hello.
All right, so on this episode, we're going to be discussing season 1, episode number 3. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we get to know our guest for this episode, because Bryce and I did like a long-winded praise, ass kissery of Seinfeld, because we love Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
And we discussed it in...
not so much the comedian.
the comedian Jerry Seinfeld is questionable, And we don't mince words with the fact that his actual comedy, is not the best. But we do love the show, and we love the characters, and we love Jerry in the actual show itself. But we want to get to know Ron a little bit and what his history is with Seinfeld. Like when you first see it, or how did you first come across it? Like what channels were you watching? Were you watching syndication? What attracted you to this particular series? So, Ron, if you want to give us a little background on your history with Seinfeld.
Yeah, I saw it in, I guess it was syndication. I don't think I saw it or any episodes when it was airing, maybe. But Seinfeld was always a show that my family watched, my whole family. So my mom likes it. If I was staying at my grandma's house when I was a kid, it was on, or if it was on, she would have it on. Yeah, it's just been a show that I've always liked. And ever since when I was a kid, I only saw episodes here and there, on TV. It wasn't until it was streaming. I forget which streaming site had it.
I think it was Hulu.
Hulu
was
the first one, right?
Yeah.
That I saw it from start to finish, for the first time. And that's when you kind of realize what episodes you like that you saw on TV, where they landed in the series. Yeah. And you're just kind of oh, that's a later episode, or it's a later season episode, and oh, you can tell this is an earlier one.
Yeah.
Seinfeld's always been it's one of those shows that my family watched and stuff like that. So it's always been in our I guess I don't know lexicon's language and stuff, but it's always been in our thing. Anytime we can't find a parking spot. Someone references the parking garage episode.
Yeah,
or something
it's Bryce and I were discussing the same thing. It's kind of in both of our families, someone's gonna reference something from Seinfeld. Now, I know for me, it's either cousins or my mother, who for some reason always was attracted to there's nothing wrong with that. In reference to me, I guess in a way it's saying joking about me or something like that. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I mean, if you know the show, you know what that reference is. So that's my mom just talking shit to me. And then number 2 would be anytime something happened to me that seemed very George Costanza-ish. Uh-huh. She would reference something that happened especially between his parents and him together, because since he's an only child, I know Bryce is an only child as well. So their dynamic was always something she would recall and laugh at me about. She would say, "I'm George Costanza."
Yeah. I'm an only child also.
Oh, are you? Oh, really? I didn't know you were an only child.
Yeah. Wow, that's kind of weird. Somebody ought to do a study on that, Seinfeld,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, because George is an only child. I mean, but according in the first series, I believe, or really early episodes. It could be into season 2. Like they reference that he has a brother, but that never gets brought up again ever. Like it's just kind of like said in passing.
Oh, is it like a
But,
brother
like-
that's away or something like that? Like, oh, your brother's like,
No, I think it's just they say something about like his brother, blah blah blah. But like again, they
okay.
never bring that up again. And of course, George is an only child. I guess in reality of the actual show, the rest of the show, and Jerry is also an only child as well. So like that's strange. That's I'm not trying to piece some things together. Like
Yeah. Well, actually, we don't know anything about Elaine, right? Elaine doesn't. They don't ever say anything about her. Oh, we never see her parents.
well, we see her dad one time. He's a
dad,
military.
yeah.
That's right.
dad,
Yeah. Because that's
He's
the
a
one with
writer.
the jacket, the
yeah.
reversible jacket.
Yeah. That's the last time we see him
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But I don't ever remember her referencing a sibling either. This is so weird now because now I'm starting to think that
Just opening up whole new avenues.
all these characters, even Kramer, I don't recall him having a brother either, because it's just him and his mom. Like they're all only children.
Yeah,
that's strange.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
It's so weird.
Huh.
That's I'm starting to think that I have to go back because I know a lot of people that don't really go for Seinfeld in my family have siblings.
maybe
There you go, man. That's something.
someone should do a study. Yeah, write a
Yeah,
paper or something.
there's
Well, I
got to
think I
be
know
some.
if I ever go back for my graduate in psychology, I think I know what
There you go.
what my thesis is going
I
to
go,
be.
what's the attraction of only children?
What's the
Seinfeld?
deal? What's the deal with only children?
Yeah,
With only child? Yeah, what's the deal with only child?
That would be the title of the research paper.
Oh man, we're opening up a whole bunch of doors here.
Yeah.
Like this has more depth than I thought initially. But so yeah, so Ron just a huge fan of Seinfeld as well. I mean, like Bryce and I were just going over the fact, like I said, like it was in our family as well. We watched all the time, and it just seems to be a thing amongst I guess fans because I know like I don't know other folks that are fans that like the whole family. It's kind of like a whole family
Well, hold
thing that we
on.
watch.
If you remember from the previous episode, I did believe I told you that my mother absolutely hated Seinfeld.
I don't recall that.
My dad and I like Seinfeld. My mom did not like Seinfeld. She's like, they're all so horrible to each other.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about
They're
it.
so mean. I was like, I don't. Yeah, so like she liked Friends and all that.
Yeah,
so it's like,
you
no,
make your
it's not.
mom- you make your mom sound like
this is
some
the
kind
real
of a-
world here, okay? It's not all saccharine sweet like the Friends show, okay?
Yeah, people. Some friends can be scummy to each other,
Yeah.
and they're so close. That just happens sometimes. But so on this episode, we're going to be talking about episode 3, and this one is called "The Robbery." And initially, with this episode, we have Jerry, who is. I forgot his stand up. Is he talking about like other apartments or something like that?
No, he's talking about somebody getting flipped off in traffic.
Right,
Oh, the
that's
toe.
right. The
Yeah,
toe
the
thing,
toe.
right?
The
Yeah.
toe, yeah. He's saying that the toe is more
Yeah.
disrespectful than the.
Yeah.
And
What's a
then
finger?
you-
What's a finger?
Yeah.
What's the deal with the finger? If I got the toe, he goes, you got to take the
Yeah.
shoe off. You got to take the sock off, and
Yeah, he's
When I-
like
when
standing
I-
on one
when-
leg and shit.
When I saw when I just recently rewatched it, when I saw that opening bit, which I know this is from a later episode, when I saw the opening bit, I was thinking like, oh, is this the one where George is chasing the guy down because he thought he flipped him off because his fingers?
no,
broken?
that's later episode.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, so
that is a later episode. But yeah, so Jerry, we open up in Jerry's apartment, and Jerry is packing because he's going to do a few shows over the weekend, and Elaine is staying behind because she's going to watch the apartment. She's going to get out of her apartment because she lives with a roommate who's really annoying, and that apparently practices musicals.
oh yeah.
So she is house sitting, and I don't know about you guys. I mean, Ron, you have the apartment. Bryce, you have the apartment. When I had an apartment, at some point, I always had people with keys.
Yeah.
I had friends with just keys. I don't know how y'all your I guess structure at your apartment, Ron. If you have any friends with like keys to your apartment. Who kind of just show up randomly. I had that a lot, and I think primarily my thing with friends is like certain friends you kind of just leave in your apartment, and you don't really worry about it too much, assuming that they can kind of keep track of your belongings or whatever. And I know I do that with Bryce here. I stay here sometimes when Bryce goes on vacation and stuff like that. Do you have people that stick around at your place if no one's around?
No.
No.
No one has keys. I guess not that I wouldn't trust one of my friends, but no, I don't. Also, I don't leave anywhere. I'm always here. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm usually here when they come over. So.
Well, you know, what's funny is that like when I did live by myself, like I used to come home from work and friends were already kind of like Kramer, just like in the apartment, like hanging out.
Already sitting on the couch.
Already sitting on the couch, just watching TV, drinking beer. Mind you, there were rules like you had to bring beer, and it was communal. Like as the owner of the apartment, I had free reign over whatever they brought as well. And mind you, I didn't take advantage or anything, but that was a rule. Like I had to get a piece of whatever they brought to the apartment.
Okay.
It might be bad, but I don't do that. But my cousin's apartment, when he used to, him and my friend were roommates, their apartment was like that. Where I would just show up and just like be like Kramer and be like, hey, what's going on? Like unannounced, like, hey, what's going on?
Right, yeah.
You got beer? Like, give me one. Like, what are we watching, a movie? Like, like what are we watching? Like, and that was fun, but I never had it where it's like my like apartment is that hangout spot. I don't think I could do it. It'd be too stressful.
I think maybe now that would be the case as I've gotten older. I mean, when I was younger, I was kind of like, I'll be honest with you, like I took a lot of my cues living on my own from Seinfeld, and I kind of just assumed like you can kind of be that with certain people, you know.
Oh, okay. You were waiting for your Kramer type person.
I had Kramer types. Trust me, trust me. I had Kramer.
You thought every apartment came with like a Kramer or something?
Oh, I felt like at some point or another I had become acquainted with my friends enough to where like you just kind of had to be this certain way, because there was a few Kramers. There were a few Georges. There were a few Elaines, I guess, that would kind of come through and stuff like that. And I just felt like that's just kind of like relationship you had with people, you know, kind of just free communal coming in and out, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, I don't know if I could deal with that, but like back then, it seemed like that was okay. But yeah, so George is on this part of this when they're in Jerry's apartment. George had already brought over a lease to an apartment, right? Because Jerry's considering moving out to an apartment, and of
course Elaine wants his apartment,
right? Because it's a step up from her apartment with her roommate and stuff like that. And we had joked about the fact that right now Bryce is trying to get is in the kind of there's a prospect of him getting rid of some furniture, and whether or not it's going to be, I guess, given away or sold to a family member.
Wow, no, that's I was thinking about that.
It was very coincidental.
Yeah, it ties in. Well, I got that call right now from my mom where it's like, "Y'all starting your podcast?" Yeah, I was like, "No." And she's like, "Well, your cousin's breaking up with his girlfriend, and so he's gonna need some furniture, and so it's like, you have those director's chairs you don't want anymore." So I was like, "Well, this is so funny. This coincides perfectly with this episode. Yeah, I'm gonna see if he's gonna try to haggle for a price or something." Nah, man, but yeah, he comes over with the lease, and I gotta say too, like, okay, it's a nice apartment, but then he says it's double what I can only imagine what he's paying for an apartment in New York City.
I thought Jerry's apartment was like kind of expensive. I don't know if it's like 90s expensive.
Yeah,
but I always thought like he had a decent apartment.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know what the new one is.
The only experience I have with New York apartments is I visited my friend one time when he was just getting like sort of out of college. And he was living in Queens, and now it's funny that Elaine had a roommate because I did actually witness that, because this apartment he was in, it was one bedroom. There was no living room. It was a bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen, and he slept in the kitchen, and the roommate had the bedroom.
In the kitchen.
Yeah, he slept in the kitchen.
There was
no living room. They just had like a fold up bed, like a fold up couch they put up against the wall in the kitchen, and that's where he would sleep. And dude, like, and look, man, it didn't have any AC, had no heating. It was fucking cold as shit in the winter, and he was paying $1,100 a month for that thing. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
jeez,
you see you see like now this isn't the 2000s, right? So I can only imagine what Jerry's paying for it. And when she said that it's double what he's paying then,
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
I mean,
how much money is it?
we're under the assumption that Jerry's doing pretty well for himself. But that's another
true.
thing is that like I can't see Jerry at this
tour.
particular time in a certain comedy boom because I mean nowadays comedians make a shit ton of money.
Well, yeah.
But I think back in the 80s, like comedians were making money. But I mean, like Jerry seems like a real like mid-tier comedian. Like he seems like he's just making like a certain salary that's kind of pretty like modest. It's not like too. I mean, he's obviously living in the same shitty apartment, you know.
Well, you said he had 4 shows in Minneapolis. Right?
Yeah,
Isn't that like
I mean,
so he's going on tour.
How much are they paying him for those 4 shows?
That's
you know?
true. Yeah.
I also like how season 1, it's like it's an employed George. Like he has prospects. You know what I mean? Like he's a realtor.
Oh, that's what he is. He's a realtor, right?
Yeah, he's a realtor.
I was
Like it's weird that after that he had really had no job or like no stable job.
Well, yeah. Speaking of that, like I was rewatching these episodes earlier today, and like my mother had mentioned something about George having a job, and I was like, I go season 1, George is like you said, someone with prospects, he has a career, and at some point he screws it up. But like later on in the series, it could be like I think like second season is where like things start to go really wrong for George.
Yeah.
And at some point or another, George just accepts who he is.
He gives up. Yeah.
Like he gives up on life, realizes he's not really a good worker, and just kind of like pretty much fakes the rest of his life. Whether him like faking to be an architect, faking to be do actual work with the Yankees.
I was gonna say, well, he does work. He does work with with Steinbrenner. He's at the.
He doesn't really work with Steinbrenner either.
But what does he? What does he do?
Exactly. What does he do? He does nothing in these places. Like he skates by, just kind of acting frustrated to make it look like
different times, man.
Working.
Because even back then, dude, he was able to find a wife even with no job, nothing. It's different times, man.
Yeah. But just to backtrack on this, the reason George is getting an apartment for Jerry is because he gets robbed, and that is because Elaine is out of the apartment because she's watching it, and Kramer, the casual visitor, leaves the door open and just to borrow a spatula and just leave the door open and forgets that he left the door open because he's watching The Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally have had instances where I was always weary about robberies in my apartment. I know people got robbed in the vicinity of my apartment. I think the only one time I've been robbed in my apartment was whenever my bike was stolen in front of my apartment.
Oh, well.
But I mean, I was chained up and I had literally bought it like a week before. Yeah. And then I remember going up the steps and I just remember coming back from class and looking to my left and my bike was gone. Yeah. And I was like, well, that was it. But I kind of had the response of Jerry, you know, like you're just like, well, I mean, we called the cops. Cops just said they really couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess it's just gone now. I mean, who am I supposed to blame for this? It's just myself just leaving it out there, you know? So I never really reacted too negatively to it. So, but.
Well, see, if you had a Kramer friend, then he would go and try to solve the case for you. Like
he would go and try to solve the case. Yeah. But, you know, the other thing I kind of like was questioning about this episode is that Jerry and George try to flip or do the choose for the episode because George really wants it because George the thing I was going to talk about was that George can't see Jerry getting a better apartment than he has. Right? Because you see it in his face whenever like he sees that it has a fireplace. It has a garden.
And it's not a very good realtor because he's like, I didn't even know it had a garden.
He's like,
what the fuck?
He's like looking through his notes. It's like, shouldn't you know this already?
Yeah, no, and you see it in his face whenever he sees all the good things about the apartment. You see his face kind of like turn to like somewhat of a. He's not happy for his friend anymore. Now he's just jealous.
I wonder.
And that's kind of like the characteristic that George takes on for the rest of the series.
I also wonder what area of New York it is too, because like that seems very uncommon for him to be on the ground floor. And,
well, he said they said it's like half a block from the park.
Oh, okay, maybe. And also, like, I don't know, man, being on the ground floor, well, I guess you don't have to worry about bothering people below you, but you're going to get all the shit above you.
true, but you got a garden.
Yeah, I like how too when at the end of it when the guy's like, we're barbecuing every day now. I was like, what the fuck? Like every day? Oh, shit.
And the one thing I was kind of curious about is that like whenever they're talking to each other about the apartment and how none of them really want to take it because they don't want the other person to feel bad about one person, the one or the other person having the apartment. Some waitress who's working at Monk's Diner.
Well, see, again, man,
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
I thought to
How is
myself,
she
I go,
affording that?
I go,
Yeah,
how does this lady able to afford this apartment? Mind you, what
She
does
has
her
a
husband do?
though. Well, that's true.
What is her husband doing? Because he was just like you said, I feel great. I'm running. I'm
Well, yeah, and
barbecuing,
another thing too,
it's
man,
all
that shit
good.
don't add up too. 'Cause he's like, I lost 10 pounds already. We're barbecuing every day. Like that shit don't add up, dude.
Hey, maybe he's
You're
just
losing
eating,
10
he's
pounds
just
and barbecuing every day.
Maybe he's eating just straight protein.
I
That's
guess,
all right.
man. You're losing 10 pounds for walking around the park, man. I don't know, dude. Whatever.
and like they're all kind of Jerry's rolling his eyes towards the end of this episode because
They have a masseuse.
they have a masseuse next door.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
everything's just
Yeah.
working out for these people. But you know what? I feel like this is like one of those points to where this is kind of like what is going to happen, like pretty much throughout the series. They're going to get the shaft. They shaft themselves.
Yep.
Like they squander opportunities or they're just almost sabotaging each other in some way. And like other people come out on top, they get screwed over. That happens a lot. And it feels like this is kind of like foreshadowing everything else that goes on
Good
in the
point.
series.
But Elaine was the one that was caught in the middle of the self-sabotage. She just happened to be...
Right. Well, that happens continuously with them because she has them as friends.
And then she sold the couch. Now she has no couch.
Yeah. And she's stuck with her roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, we were talking a little off the recording, Bryce and I, saying that I feel like he and I would get into like that kind of squabble when it came to, like, for instance, an apartment. Like, because if, let's say, for instance, Bryce was the realtor and he's giving me the apartment. He doesn't know like all this stuff is there, and he's like, "Well, man, this is actually pretty good. Maybe I should get it." And then he goes, and I'm just like, no, okay, yeah, you take it. And you're like, no, I don't know, you should take it. And I feel like we've been through those kind of like back and forths with certain things, just like very minuscule, mundane shit. Not to say that I would like he would or I would like try to take the apartment away from the other, but it just feels like familiar as far as like the relationship between like Bryce and I, like things that we've argued about or something.
I guess it ties to like the childlike way that they, not that, because that stuff does happen like in adulthood, but it's like very like, where it's like, oh, do you want it? It's like, well, not if you don't want it. It's like, if you don't want it, I'll take it or something like that. It's just like, are you sure if you want it, take it? And then with that, and then like the way they like flip a coin and they play like where they play like
choose.
shoot. Or,
Yeah,
choose.
I've never heard that.
I was about to ask you, how does that
Yeah,
game work? You just choose an even or odd number? And like,
I guess, and whoever has the highest one, I think, or lowest. I'm not sure because Jerry picks, when he wins, Jerry picks one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And George picks two because he goes to the restroom. He's like, "Why did I pick two?" So I'm guessing whoever does the lowest number wins.
Yeah, because I know that
he's like he's that's the thing. Whatever, man. That game doesn't make sense because like how the hell?
Oh yeah, because then someone always has the lowest one, right?
I guess, but he's like, I want odds. I want evens. It's like, well, what else is there, man? You have odds or evens. Like, I don't know, but yeah. And then I didn't get that game too much, but
that flip of the coin, I've been in those kind of situations before where.
No, do you call interception though?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is that like it seems like
I'm sorry. Do you call interference?
It seems implied.
No,
you have to.
But if you wanted interference, you would have had to called it right when it hit the counter. You can't like have it hit the counter and then it fall down and then like see what it is and then be like, nah, that.
Well,
and be like, nah, that ain't count.
Now George is saying he's contesting that though because that's just he's saying that's just intrinsic to the game, man. Like you can't just.
I would say you can call interference, but you have to do it right when it hits the counter and like falls off. Then you got to be like, oh no, that doesn't count.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see that because like in this situation, George calls it the minute they see the.
Yeah, he's kind of Weasley. Yeah, he's
he
like,
waits.
In my estimation, like to me, if it hits something, that's already interference, right? Like it's almost implied already.
I don't know, man.
But like I guess in realistically, like you do have to call it because I mean, depending on how things just fall, you can kind of call anything interference if you really want to.
Well, this isn't the last time they
he says-
decide something by childhood games because they do the any mini miny mo.
Yeah,
one thing.
that's kind of like
Or no, the
whole
Inca
thing
dot.
with
What
it.
is it? That was
Yeah.
another one I ever heard. The Inca, the one of some episode.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
but I don't know. My question to you guys is: do you think George would have really felt bad if he got the apartment? Would it really have killed him?
No.
No,
So therein lies the problem. He just needed to have the gumption to take it. You should have said, "I'm taking it, Jerry." I said, "Jerry, I'm taking it. I'm taking
yeah.
it."
But see, the thing is that he doesn't have that.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
he doesn't
man.
have that quality inside him. Now, if he would have been that person, you know, he would have relished in that his new kingdom. You know, he would have been
What
like,
if-
"Hey,
Yeah.
Jerry, come on over. Yeah, Jerry. Like
Yeah.
whenever they win,
We're
like they win
barbecuing.
something. Yeah, we're barbecuing. Come on over, Jerry. Like, you know, Kramer's here." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Kramer?"
Yeah.
I mean, Kramer's always at George's place barbecuing and
Yeah,
stuff.
man.
You know. But we all know that if Jerry had it, Jerry obviously wouldn't be barbecuing. Jerry doesn't seem like that kind of guy. Gardening, I could see him probably getting a gardener, but like there'd be like a whole new other episode like of them struggling what to tip this guy. If it's like for instance, if it's like someone that came around and he was kind of like used to that guy, if a new guy came around, he's like, "Oh, do I have to tip this guy differently? Like, do I? You know what I mean? Like, it would have been a whole episode on that." But yeah, George wouldn't have felt bad like one bit if he had gotten the apartment.
What if that's the moment? What if like him not getting the apartment is him already like falling off? Like what if he got the apartment, his life would have just like taken off. He would have like been like, you know what, I am taking it, and he would have gotten that. And everything just would have been set for him.
The other thing, I know that was the defining moment this whole time.
Yeah.
But no, I do wonder though, because like he's supposed to be selling the apartment. I'm assuming he's getting some kind of commission. So isn't he undercutting himself by taking the apartment?
Oh, you know what? I don't know. Can a realtor like take commission if they?
Yeah, and I do wonder too. Like, would the realtor, like, I'm assuming he's working for a real estate company. Would they like that he's just going in there and be like, "Nah, I took it for myself because I liked it." I mean, I guess they wouldn't care as long as somebody's
pay
paying
me,
for it. But yeah,
pay me.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's laws against that kind of behavior.
It's
You know, because
amongst friends, though.
Huh?
It's amongst friends, though, man.
Yeah, I guess whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's episode 3.
Yeah.
I don't know what other takeaways can we get from this episode as far as like Jerry and his or you know is the robbery itself is like the title of the episode, and that stems off into the fact that he's trying to get the new apartment because you know it's unsafe. Elaine wants it, she doesn't get it. George, being the real estate agent, finds Jerry an apartment, then decides he wants it, and then of course Jerry just goes back to the apartment, and then life continues on as normal.
Well, you see, Ray, there's a deeper meaning to the robbery title because you see, he's in many ways robbing himself because he never robbing himself in the apartment. He never.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a whole new life could have opened up for any one of them.
Yeah.
With the change that could have come with the new apartment, Jerry getting a new apartment, Elaine getting Jerry's apartment. What if Elaine and Kramer would have been like best friends? Like that could have changed the whole
that's
projection.
true because she would have been living next to Kramer.
Yeah, but would she let Kramer into her apartment as casually as Jerry lets
I don't think
him into her
She
apartment?
doesn't like Kramer. She can't stand him.
Well, he's a buffoon, right? Like at some point she calls him like
hipster doofus.
hipster doofus, right? That's that's what she calls him. But you know they don't like it. She doesn't like him, but she tolerates him as much as she does George. And
It's true.
but I mean, to be fair, George and Elaine, Kramer and Elaine, their relationship hinges on the fact that Elaine and Jerry are still friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Well, this issue's been addressed in further episodes. You don't remember when Elaine and George are trying to hang out, and the only thing they have
It's talking about Jerry.
Yeah, it's talking about Jerry.
Yeah, they leave early, right? They just like get up and like, oh, that's
yeah.
Well, even in this one, like when Jerry says he's gonna take the apartment, Elaine hugs Jerry, and then like she's like she like goes like she's gonna hug George, and then she kind of just like
he kind of goes away too. He's like like I don't know.
And she kind of does the whole like shoulder like punch thing, the arm punch.
Yeah.
It's funny, man.
Well, I even just jumping ahead a little bit. Whenever Susan thinks that Elaine and George are having an affair because they were like kind of like talking to each other to determine some thing that George was hiding with the import-exporting thing. And then when Susan like confronts Elaine about them having an affair, like she just laughs in her face and walks away. Because like
I think George and Elaine only like talk or like interact when they're like scheming, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When they're like trying to plan.
Same thing with Kramer too. Like whenever they're planning and scheming, like she knows because they have no morals at some point in the episode. Like their morals just go away completely. So she knows if she needs to get her hands dirty, Kramer's willing to really get in there, and George is willing to just lie to no end, you know, for them for whatever reason, because I think that's his only joy in life. Possibly later on in the series.
I do wonder what Kramer would have done though if they did move. Like, you think Kramer he would have ended up starving because like Elaine wouldn't give him any food? he
would have. I mean, technically Newman's not officially a part of the series yet. No. But he probably would have just attached himself to Newman or any one of his other friends that we never see.
Perhaps the English bloke that he was accusing of stealing the stuff.
Yeah, that's true. He would have weaseled his way into somebody else's house. That's just what he does. He's a lovable weasel, hipster doofus guy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else to add to this episode, guys?
I like the answering machine joke when he's talking to the cops.
Oh, right.
And he's like, I'd hate to have anyone else returning my calls, and the cop doesn't get it. I mean, the way he words it too is kind of like you can understand how they would be like, "What? No, returning your calls." And I just thought it was like a really funny like.
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah.
Well, you know, they kind of like just Ron bringing that back up reminded me of a later kind of instance where Jerry's car gets stolen. And they're like, we should call the phone, and then the fucking thief answers, and he's like, hey, like, how do you like do this in the car? And he's like, or he's like, Kramer is like saying, are there like gloves in the glove compartment? Yeah, can you bring those back to my apartment? And he's like, yeah, give me the address. You know, like, you know, that, I feel like kind of plays into this particular joke that Jerry's doing here.
Yeah.
But before we end this episode, I just want to do a quick, like, what would you rate this episode, like, from a 1 through a 5?
Oh, we're going back to ratings?
Well, just for Seinfeld episodes. The movies, we kind of left that on, but, like, I know we didn't favor the first 2 episodes that well, because we know they're just kind of introducing characters and stuff like that. And this one, we're midway through season 1. How well in a rating, again, you can kind of base this on however you want. How characters are established, are they a little bit more fleshed out this time, or like you think that there's still more work that needs to be done as far as like the dynamic between all of them?
Oh, well, before we do that, so one more thing I wanted to bring up. I'm sorry I forgot about this, but it's bad enough too. Like, did y'all notice that when he comes home, Elaine is like coming out the plunger? So not only did she get stolen, she clogged the toilet. But ratings for me, man, I don't know. Like, I'd season 1 to me just kind of suffers. Like, I don't know. It doesn't start picking up till later. But
they usually skip season 1.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just so like, I don't even like the way the apartment looks. Like, it's, you know, like,
it's so bland. Why are all the books in his bookshelf
in the hallway?
Like, why are they white dust jackets and behind a white wall? Like, it doesn't make any. It's just like, how can you look at that all day?
Yeah, I know, man. It's like the set.
Superman's not there yet. Yeah,
that's right.
Oh, one other thing I did notice, like when I was watching it at home, Like whenever he sits down and tries to turn on the TV and it's not there.
Yeah.
Like I looked at the floor and the floor looks just really scuffed up.
Mm.
You know, I don't know if that's just the tile that they have on there or like the vinyl flooring or what kind of flooring it is, but I was just like, it just looks completely scratched up. Like it's roughed up.
Yeah.
And I don't know I don't know why I noticed the flooring, but it bothered me a lot. Just looking at the flooring, I was like, I wonder if I get a good look at the floor later on in the episodes. Like, was it cleaned up? Did they change it? Because I mean, like you said, there's certain obvious aspects of the apartment that get changed, but it's very bland right now, and the floor bothered me.
So, what are we rating it on? Like 1 to 5 or?
Yeah, just 1 to 5. Like, what do you think?
It's congealing a little bit. Like it's it's like becoming more cohesive, I suppose. Like it's better than the first two. I'll give it a 2 out of the 5. Maybe even too generous. Like again, season 1's not my thing, man, but it's definitely better than the first 2 episodes, like in my opinion. So I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
What about you, Ron?
I guess I'll give it a 2 also. I guess this is like the first one where it starts to kind of feel like Seinfeld, right? Where like it's how the show's gonna be. Like everyone's kind of like the situations there, like how the episode, like the formulas for most episodes work out. It's kind of like getting set with this one. This one's it's more straightforward though. It's just like one standard plot. They haven't introduced like where they have like the B plot or like this or even a C plot yet, where like all the characters are involved.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I guess like the solid foundation of one of those like plot lines is there. Like in another episode, this would be like the B plot line for like another thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like it's them figuring out how the show should be.
That's a good point, Ron. But so I guess like season 1 really is more just about Jerry.
Yeah.
Like there's no real anything going on with the other characters.
Right, because I mean, right now, technically, at that particular time when this is actually airing, it's called the Seinfeld Chronicles.
Oh, that's
mind you, they did
about
change
that.
it later on to just Seinfeld. You know, like, but like it's called the Seinfeld Chronicles. So I mean, it's primarily based on him. Yeah. And like you said, Ron, there aren't any other plots that are going on because eventually when the Kramer, George, and Elaine start having their own thing going on, that's when everything gets ramped up. And Jerry, and then we talked about this, Bryce and I, in the first couple episodes, that they get the better storylines and the better like jokes, and Jerry's just kind of like there, kind of like assisting that, as opposed to him getting all the show like in these first episodes in the first season, because obviously each one of them is like enough. You know, like we follow them and like they see like they get into their own shenanigans and stuff like that, and that's when things get really more get more interesting. Yeah. But as for me as well, you know what? I'll agree with you guys. I'll give it a 2 as well. It's still enjoyable, but it's just not the Seinfeld that I prefer. Obviously, in the later seasons, that's when things get really things get more memorable. And I told Bryce this too. Like whenever we do watch these episodes, that I remember them because I've seen them, but they're never anything that comes to mind when it comes to like quoting Seinfeld or remembering a plot of Seinfeld. I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this episode, but it's just not as memorable as the rest. But so 2 out of 5 for me as well.